It's Alea Antoine. You're listening to Tease podcast.
Everyone loves the tease. Stop.
But don't get too excited. I feel like this scenario could really lead to a lot of heartbreak and a lot of hurt. I mean, just staying friends with an ex is so tricky. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tease podcast. Happy Tuesday, bitches. It is so good to be back with you guys. I have some exciting announcements on this episode, but I am also so happy, and I want to say thank you for the amazing feedback that I got on the last episode with Taylor and Cambry. If you haven't listened to it after this episode, be sure to tune in. It's about all things friendships, relationships, and hair, because they're both hairstylists. I went into that interview with the splittest of ends. Like, my whole head, I was trying to keep my hair behind my back so they wouldn't see it too hard. But after that, I made Kai give me a trim, and look at how cute it is. I feel bouncy and flowy, but my roots are still peeking out, but I'm about to get that redone because, guys, it is official. We are moving! Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we're actually going to be making another out-of-state move. I literally cannot believe it, because if you've been listening to this show from either the beginning or you've just listened to a majority of the episodes, you know that I have been talking about moving forever. I have been wanting to move for so long, and we're actually moving out of state. It's really surreal because I did not think that we would be able to move until, I don't know, maybe earliest January. But realistically, I thought this time next year. I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to thug out a whole nother year here. But it is official. We have signed a lease. They have signed the lease, and we are locked down to be moving next month. And it is actually just so insane. We are going to be moving to Las Vegas, Nevada. I cannot believe I'm going to be a Vegas girly. I honestly feel like this could be the place for me. I'm from Texas. I live in Washington now, and I didn't really know where I wanted to move. I always have known, though, that I wanted to move, but I always thought that it would be for college, but then COVID happened, and then my scholarships got fucked up, so I ended up staying in Texas. Then me and Kai met, and I was able to move to Washington because they were stationed here for the Army, and I was doing my classes remotely. So me moving didn't affect my school or anything, but it still wasn't me moving for school. And Washington, as much as we love it and we like it, it's not like we really had a choice about Washington. Kai got moved here, and basically my choice was stay in Texas or move to Washington, you know? So this is the first time that I'm moving, and we genuinely picked the place. I don't want to say that we put in a ton of thought into it. We did, in the sense of Las Vegas, it has a very low business tax rate. It has a very low income tax rate. And my goal is to make the pod into a business or an LLC. So I know that will be a lot less. Las Vegas is also for the girlies. It's the only place in America where the women make more than the men. And I obviously want to still do some service industry work in there, because I still obviously need money, and I still have an addiction to getting tipped. Kai got their first big tip at the barbershop today, and I was like, isn't this crack? And Kai was like, no, I want to cut hair all the time now in anticipation of a tip. And I was like, once you do a tip job, it's really hard to break out. But I think that the way that we ended up choosing Vegas was that I hate the cold. I am so happy and so blessed to not be spending another winter in Washington. If you like the cold, then good for you. You would love it here. But for me, I had some of the worst depression that I have ever had in my life being in Washington during the winter. I felt like my motivation was low. I barely got things done. I made so many terrible decisions. And honestly, I just was not loving life. I did not wake up sliving. I woke up another day of being alive. Like, that's the type of shit I was on. And I wouldn't say that I deal with depression on like a daily basis. I'm more in like the anxiety category, but like I can get to that point, and I felt like the winters were really causing that for me. I think that I'm someone who thrives in sunshine, who thrives in the heat. I mean, I like to dress slutty, guys. Like, I want to wear a mini skirt and a crop top. I can't fucking do that here. Not to mention in Washington, since it is so cold, people walk around in jackets all the time. And being from Texas, since it is hot, people wear Spanx and sports bras with leggings and crop tops and short shorts. Like, people dress with barely any clothes because it's the heat. If you dress like that in Washington, people will stare at you. Like, I want to tell you, oh, no one will care. And they don't literally care, but like they will stare at you. You will get catcalled. I will be wearing an outfit that if I wore it in Texas, no one would even bat an eye at. And if I wear it here, it's as if I'm walking around actually butt ass naked. And so I'm really happy to be in a city that is going to be more of my vibe weather-wise, be more of my vibe styling-wise. I am also excited to live in a place to where like the city is where things happen. In Washington, Seattle to Olympia are like the big cities. So it's like Olympia's down south, then you have Tacoma, and then you have Seattle. And in between, there's little cities. So if you have some sort of obligation, an event, some sort of fun activity, or if you make friends in Washington, they are going to live all in between that area for the most part. And so if you live like outside of the city of Seattle, it's really hard to live a life where driving isn't a big thing. You know what I mean? Like, you are constantly going to be driving 30 to 40 minutes and spending a lot of money on gas. And so I'm from San Antonio in Texas, where it's just a big city. So everything that happens is in that city. You're not in Seattle about to find out that you have to do an event in Tacoma. Like, it's one city, and so Vegas is one city, and I'm really excited for everything to just be in the same area. Everything to have the same city, comma, Nevada, you know? And I have to be honest, we have not been to Vegas a lot. We have only been to Vegas once. We went to Vegas once in May, but it was one of those things, and I think that me and Kai make a lot of decisions in life like this. It was one of those things to where it just felt right. It just felt natural, and you may be thinking, oh, of course it felt natural. You're probably drunk, and in Vegas, everyone feels like they should stay there. You know what I mean? But it didn't give that vibe. It more gave a vibe of like, I want to know more about the city, and I don't mean the strip, but I just love the environment. I'm so excited for the heat. It's less expensive than Cali. I wouldn't want to live in Florida. I wouldn't want to move back to Texas, and everything up north, whether it's East Coast, West Coast, has a severe cold front, and that's not for me. That's not my vibe. I want the desert. And it's funny because when I tell people here that I'm moving to Vegas, they all go, oh, you know, it's going to be hot. It's in the desert. Like, and they say it like a negative, and I'm like, no, that's what I fucking want. I want to be sweating my ass off. I used to do track and field in 100-degree weather. I am ready to thrive. And so we honestly thought that financially and just like with everything that we wouldn't be able to move very quickly. We were like, we're going to be stuck here. And I think it's just one of those things to where I was listening to a podcast and they said, when the universe doesn't want you to be somewhere, it will not let you thrive. When life is trying to push you out of something, it's your sign to get out. You know what I mean? And at first we were going to stay because of some of the friendships we built here. Some of our friends moved. The other friends didn't turn out how we thought, you know, and that was already kind of like, okay, like maybe that's less reason to stay. Our friend got stationed in Poland. Another friend got stationed in Hawaii. So like our core, like really good friends that we had don't even live here anymore. And then we thought, well, Kai's in barber school, so we should wait to move until after they finish barber school, which wouldn't be till January, right? And in Nevada, I don't know how to explain this in the short term, but basically, since Kai was in the military and they're going to school, their GI Bill covers our rent. When we were looking into moving, we were looking to see if there were any schools for Kai to go to that would do that same thing, but none of the schools for hair worked with the GI Bill except for one, but they were full, right? So we're like, okay, we're just going to have to wait until you finish school here and then we'll move. Not to mention, I have just graduated college. And if you know anything about just graduating college, I would say 80% of people graduate with not the most money. I saved up a lot, but then my senior year, I really had to take time off from work because it was just a lot. I thought, oh, I can handle it. We got AI now. We got Grammarly. We got all of these helpful resources, and it was still really hard. And so I really wanted to focus on just graduating in good standing and getting like that magna cum laude. I don't know. It's just always been important to me. So I was like, well, you know what? It's good that we aren't moving right now because I don't think that I'm in a financial place to where I can, right? Then all of a sudden, a couple months ago, the school reaches out to Kai and they're like, we have a spot for December. Do you want it? And we were like, what the fuck? But we were still like, okay, yes, that would cover the rent, but we don't have enough money to like move and do the job hunt, because whenever you're doing a job hunt in a new city and you're not working, you need to live off of your savings and the money that you saved up for a little. So I got the job at the golf course, right, that I told y'all about. And I was making money, I was saving it, but not enough to make me feel confident to move. Like, I moved to Washington from Texas with X amount of money, and I wasn't at that same place this time earlier in the year, you know? And so I was like, I don't know if we should do it. And then I actually had a car accident at the beginning of this year, and I had to go to like physical therapy. I had to get like a bunch of treatments for it, for my back. And it was really funny because I was set up with a lawyer who was going to handle the case, you know? My lawyer dropped me. They said that they didn't think that they can do it. And so I was like, well, fuck, like, I mean, I guess I'm not getting anything out of it, you know? I decided to put on my fucking big ass, boss ass, superhero woman ass pants. And I was like, I'm going to file this shit for myself. I filed all of the paperwork that happened to go in the car accident with the insurance companies. And a couple weeks after Kai got that call about the hair school, I got a call about a settlement and we came into some money. And basically the stars just aligned. My job at the golf course is seasonal. I didn't know exactly how long the season was going to be because they base it off of the weather. So it's very like tentative, you know? The job is literally ending the week before we're planning to move. So it just like... life wants us to move. The universe is pushing us out. And you know what? I'm ready. Like, I'm out the door. The universe, I hear you. I see you. And I am just so excited for this next journey with you guys. I am so excited to take this podcast on a new trip with me. Like, I literally feel like this is like some sort of like personal diary that we are all writing together. And I just feel like I also need to live in a place that is going to be exciting for y'all to even hear about, that I'm going to be able to come to y'all with stories. I've gone to the point where in Washington, I spend a lot of time at home or at work, or that's about it, you know? And I want to come at y'all with hot content. I don't want y'all falling asleep during the pod. So I just feel like all around, this is going to be really good, not just for me, not just for Kai, but for like us. And I am so excited. Now on to the next announcement that I am so excited about, which I want to say thank you for. We reached 100 subscribers on YouTube. I honestly can't believe it. Guys, YouTube is the one social media, I guess you would call it, that like I have never ever used before. Like when I was making a YouTube for this podcast, I was like, what the actual fuck do you do? I didn't know. It was giving when like your grandparents download Instagram for the first time to keep up with their family and they're like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like I had no idea what absolutely anything is. Yeah, I had a podcast before in the past, but that podcast was just audio. It was back in 2020, so there was a lot less like podcasting software, podcasting bullet points that you had to follow, you know? So I didn't make a YouTube channel for that one, and I think that podcast has definitely less than 15 episodes, you know? So it didn't even go on for a long time, but I've never been on YouTube before. I never really even watched YouTube. Like when I was a kid, the only time I remember watching YouTube was like for actual educational shit, like learning how to braid, learning how to do hair. Like I would only watch YouTube for like tutorials. I never watched it for like entertainment. Like Kai will even talk about like some of the big YouTubers that all of y'all know, and I'm like, I don't know. Or I might know them from Instagram, but I don't know like their YouTube personality. So I was just really blind going in. And for that to be the first account to reach 100 is like actually so amazing, so funny. And I love YouTube. Subscribe to Tease Podcast. And that's where you can see the visual videos. But that is all thanks to you guys. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And to show my gratitude, I want to make this episode enough about me and more about you. So we are going to dive Wait. We're going to dive straight into Tease Me, questions, stories, advice. Let's get into it. Wait, first, I want to start with some unsolicited advice that I wrote down. And I said, unsolicited advice. If you don't want to give your friends a ton of relationship pep talks, just send them Don't Deserve by Glorilla. Guys, have y'all heard Don't Deserve by Glorilla from her new album? If you haven't, please go listen to it. It starts off like, that X word don't deserve my friend. And it's so funny. It's just a whole song about how a guy doesn't deserve her friend. So if you have a friend who has been going through the same relationship problem over and over again, and you're like, I cannot give another pep talk, send in that song. That is just advice from me that I wrote in to us. Let's dive into our first question. The first question is, I broke up with my ex because of long distance. They wanted to be friends. Should I reach out or wait? Okay, this is very layered, and obviously this is the only context I have, so I'm going to give you all a couple different scenarios. So you broke up with your ex because of long distance, but they wanted to be friends. Let's address that first. Should you be friends with an ex? I'm going to tell you, when me and Kai had like our little tiff, we remained friends. And we remained friends because we were going to get back together. Like, we knew it. The universe knew it. Everyone who we told knew it. My mom knew it. Kai's parents knew it. Like, we knew that we were going to get back together. So us staying friends or staying friends with an ex, I don't have a lot of experience with. The only experience that I have is that has an underlying tone of getting back together. If you and your ex want to stay friends while doing long distance, but you can't stay in a relationship, I feel like that could go one of two ways. That could either be really good because it keeps y'all in touch, and when y'all connect, y'all can get back together again. Maybe the long distance is just because of circumstance, you know? And so remaining friends is just y'all holding on to each other and y'all have a plan to get back together soon. But on the flip side of that, I think that remaining friends while being long distance could be really messy, because what if you want to hook up with other people? What if you want to get together with other people? Where is that line? It feels like a massive gray area. Like, let's say you're friends, you keep in touch, but you broke up, and they say, hey, I'm going on a date, but y'all talk and call like all the time. That feels weird. I don't know if that is actually the healthiest option, because to me, I feel like if y'all are going to remain close friends while doing long distance, then you should have just stayed together. Honestly, I just feel like there's so many ways for you to get hurt in this scenario, unless y'all have like completely had a breakup that has a clean end and you're like, yeah, this can't work because we'll never work, and it's just mutual, and you're like, ha ha ha, we're friends. That's different. Then go ahead. But if it's still like y'all have some sort of infatuation or love for each other, I feel like this scenario could really lead to a lot of heartbreak and a lot of hurt. I mean, just staying friends with an ex is so tricky. I feel like there's some people where they stay friends because they know they want to get back together, and they only broke up because they wanted to work on themselves. Those people usually don't end up hooking up with other people during that gap. You know what I mean? And then there's the other side of people that it was just one of those things to where you kind of laugh about it. Like, I can't believe we were even fucking together. And you're able to be friends because there's no absolute way that like that would work. And y'all know that mutually. And then there's a gray area people to where, yeah, you're friends, but if they go on a date, you're going to be crying. Yeah, you're friends, but if they tell you about another girl, you're going to be crying. Yeah, you're friends, but you say I love you, but like you mean it. Yeah, you're friends, but you fuck. Like, I don't know. I feel like just remaining friends with an ex is already hard. And then with long distance is fucking hard on a relationship. Me and Kai did long distance, and I'm telling you that keeping up with someone long distance is a chore. A lot of my friends who are in Texas and we're long distance friends, we don't talk very often because it's a lot of work to do. We talk when we see each other. It's one of those things where we catch up. So I want to ask you, are you willing to put in that amount of effort for an ex? It's not the same as when y'all live in the same city and you can kind of talk, go to the bar together, and y'all are just friends. You have to intentionally give this person your time. That's time you could be watching Netflix. That's time you could have picked up a shift at work. That's time that you could have hung out with someone who's actually in person, face to face with. So do you want to put in that much time and that much attention to a long distance ex? Or maybe, and this is what I would recommend, don't cut each other out. Don't have like this negative feelings if y'all are still into each other. Keep the long distance and just maintain contact via social media and update each other on holidays. And then when y'all are able to be back together in person, that's when you catch up. I feel like that is the best way to do it, but I don't think that you should be FaceTiming and texting this person all the time if they're your ex and they're long distance, because that's giving long distance relationship, and that's just a very confusing gray area that I am honestly confusing myself even thinking about. So basically the question is, should I reach out or wait? It really depends. Like, did you break up? Did they break up? Was it amicable? Yeah, it just really depends on if you should reach out or wait. I think take into consider what you want out of this scenario, because if you want to get back together, but you don't want to get hurt, I would just say reach out when Thanksgiving comes and say happy Thanksgiving, or when it's their birthday, and like kind of keep a positive distance. That way, if y'all want to keep that door open and get back together, that's fine. But if you're thinking, I want to be friends, like talk all the time type shit, girl, that's a relationship. That is a long distance relationship. And so I just think it's really important to figure out what you want. Okay, next question. Here's a question from a person in a completely different generation, parentheses, old dude. I'm curious how you came to be so incredibly open about your sexuality and your relationships. Definite contrast with how I was raised and how I approach the world. And second, do you feel a responsibility or a drive to be such an open book because it's a podcast, or it's just your natural approach to the world? I think you have a truthful and open platform. I enjoy your style and what I would call stream of consciousness podcasting. And I'm always struck with the way you weave together your stories and pieces of content. Thank you so much. And honestly, the fact that this question came from a quote unquote old dude that listens to Tease, I just want to say thank you. And I love that everyone and anyone can listen to this podcast. I know that like I am a woman, I'm Black, I'm queer, and I want this to be a space for anyone with those connections, but I also want it to be a space for anyone outside of that realm. I really don't want a podcast that ices people out and makes people feel isolated. I want everyone to be able to come here and find some sort of piece of, I don't know, some sort of piece of connection to it, like whether it's just funny to you, whether it's entertainment, whether it's a life lesson, whether it's educational. I just want everyone and anyone to be able to get something out of this pod. And I'm just so happy that that is what's happening, because that is the goal. I don't want to divide or isolate. I really want this to be a place where we can all come together. Like, this is just for the cool ass bitches, you know? And so going into this question, how I became so open about my sexuality and my relationships, that's a good question. I think that as far as my sexuality, I think that I'm open with an ebb and flow, I will be honest. I'm very open on this podcast. I'm very open on my social media. I'm very open with like friends that I have or the queer community. But I will say that that's not always the case. Like being gay, as much as it is very accepted and open now, it is still in your everyday life something that's not always perceived as normal depending on what setting you're in. And so there are times where I find myself being a complete contrast to how I am on this podcast and being very closed off about it and not wanting to talk about it. Like how I told you when I first started working at the golf course and I didn't tell anyone that I was gay. If someone asked me about relationship and they used he pronouns, I would not correct them. And there's times where I have customers and they ask about my relationship and I just use the he pronouns as well. And it's not that I'm trying to deceive or be secretive. It's more just like, I don't feel like being the minority right now. I don't feel like facing potential homophobia. And whether it's not homophobia or it's just like that weird look where it's like, oh, girlfriend. Like, I just sometimes don't feel like it. I think I've said this in another episode. Like, I feel like I already wear my minorities of being Black and a woman on my sleeve. So sometimes with my sexuality, I'm going to admit if it's in a space where I'm not 100% sure what the vibe is, I may not be as open as I am on here. And I think that in turn is why I'm so open on here, because I love that this is a safe space, or am at least working on creating a community where that feels safe. But I think another reason why I'm really open about it is because like Kai is amazing. Like, who wouldn't want to show off Kai? Like, I love my relationship. And so one of the reasons why I'm open is just because my relationship, at least to me, is so beautiful. It's so special. It's so hard to come across. And like, I'm the first person in my family in years to have a healthy relationship in my 20s that could actually become something very long term. Like, my mom, she was a very young mom, you know, and so she wasn't with my dad. She met my stepdad in her 30s. My grandmother's divorced. And so this just feels really special and amazing and awesome to me. So like, why wouldn't I talk about that? But yes, I am open on here, but I'm not going to like make you think that I'm over here screaming it from the rooftops every day and just like my public interactions, because sometimes I don't. And it's just simply because also, not everyone needs to know everything about you. Like, if I'm at the post office, I don't think the lady needs to know that I'm gay. Okay, next part of the question. Do you feel a responsibility or a drive to be an open book because it's a podcast? I guess I kind of addressed that, but I would say that I do feel a responsibility to be an open book on a podcast, because if I wasn't going to be an open book on here, why would I even make it in the first place? I also am just like a very open book in general, which I am actually working on. I am like someone who used to tell people every part of my life, you know what I mean? And not in like a trauma dump type of way, but like I wasn't mysterious enough. And I think I gave people too much to work with because they knew too much about me. So yes, I am naturally an open book. I mean, when I was growing up, I wasn't even allowed to say the word lie. And I don't mean like, oh, I wasn't allowed to lie. Like, I mean, my mom did not even like the word lie. She said fib. So like, I don't know, I guess maybe that's why, like, I just like have this deep shame of if I tell a lie, you know what I mean? Like, obviously everyone has secrets, everyone has white lies that they've told, but like, literally I was telling Kai, I was like, I could like lie about like one little thing and it will literally keep me up at night. So that might be why I'm an open book. I think it's also just like the content that I consume. Like, I consume content that resonates with me and that is produced by people who are also open books. Like, when I watch shows on TV or movies, I love like a good 90s high school music movie where they're showing all their problems, they're showing their relationships. I love and have a deep passion for reality TV where they're just sharing their whole life and sharing their relationships. And so it's kind of like, I would say in my head at least, very normal to be an open book because that is what I'm consuming all the time. And I don't consume really anything where people are closed off and very secretive. Like, that's not my vibe. And so I think that also to me, being open is so normalized. Like, I mean, that really shows that like the content that you consume like really has an effect on how you approach the world. And so since everyone that I listen to, when I listen to podcasts, I watch reality TV, those are all people who are very, very open. And so it just feels natural to me. I think also just like, I'm a huge talker. And if you have a huge talker, they're probably going to tell you about their life. I am a huge talker. I mean, look, this episode was supposed to be another mini episode, and look at me. I'm definitely making this to the 40-minute mark, or at least close to it. But yes, thank you for writing in this question, and I hope you keep enjoying Tease Pod. And my last question is, hi, Alea. I know that you live in Seattle, and I've always been curious about it. Would you recommend moving there? This is a funny question to get, considering that I just talked about how I'm moving out of Seattle. I will say that I do not regret moving to Washington. I think that Washington taught me a lot of life lessons. It was completely different from Texas. It is a very, I would say, progressive state too. Like, it can be very open. There's very amazing social characteristics to it, but I think that it really just depends, because here's what I will tell you. Washington itself, specifically Seattle, but just all of Washington in general, is expensive as fuck. It is so expensive, guys. If you're looking for a studio apartment in Seattle, you're going to be paying $1,700 and up. We have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom outside of Seattle, and we pay over $2,000 a month. Like, it is a very pricey city. And if you don't have a lot of money, if you're in your 20s, I wouldn't recommend moving here. I know a lot of people who are like in the 23 and up range who still haven't moved out of their parents' house. And yes, they have their own reasons for that, but I will say I'm sure the cost of living affects that. To put it in very simple terms, a bag of flour in Texas is about 50 cents and a bag of flour here is $2. The gas here, you're looking at close to $4. The state tax is 10%. So on every big purchase, you're going to be paying 10%. 10% is a huge number. That's what investors take out of like their companies, you know what I mean? So the camera that I'm recording with right now would have been like an $80 tax. The new camera that I got, I shipped to Portland with my friends because they don't have a tax. So honestly, Washington is becoming for a certain tax bracket. And if you're not in it, I wouldn't recommend moving here. I think that it has had some of the most intense gentrification and price increase in America over the past 40 years. I saw a study about it. And so it is very, very expensive. And that's part of the reason why I'm moving, because I want to make my dollar stretch and I want to enjoy life. And I don't want to always be on a budget in an expensive ass place. Like in Texas, I was able to do so many more fun things because I wasn't constantly worried. In Texas, so many of my friends had their own apartment because it was achievable. You know what I mean? And I will say that like it's dark for half of the year. It is dark from November to about February, March at 4:30. It rains. It is cold. If you have curly hair, it's going to be a little bit difficult because if you straighten it, it will get wet and turn curly and frizz. If you have it curly, it will frizz. And so, yeah, there's just things like that. I will also say that like it can invoke seasonal depression, which is not only something that you'll have to deal with, but it's something that you'll interact with a lot of people that are dealing with that too, which could also make you even more depressed. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, it's very open. It's very progressive. It has so many beautiful things of nature. It's close to Canada. It's gorgeous. Washington is beautiful when you can see it in the daylight. The summers are absolutely to die for. I definitely recommend visiting. So I think it just depends on what you want out of a place. A lot of people who like Washington like that darkness. They like the rain. They like the hikes. So you know what I mean? So you have to think about, what do I want out of a place? And so, yeah, I would recommend moving to Washington for some people, but I also would not recommend it for others. It just really depends on what you're working with and what your goals are out of a new place. Okay, that was everything that I had for you guys today. I am so happy to let y'all in on our dirty little secret that we've had for like a couple weeks. And next week, one of your favorites will be joining us again for our very last episode on this apartment couch together. And I am so excited for y'all to see it. I'm so excited for this journey. Guys, we are going to turn Tease podcast the fuck up. I'm so excited. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Tease Pod, at Tease Podcast, on all other platforms. I am at Alea Antoine. And please, please, please rate, review, 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. And I will see y'all next Tease Tuesday. I love you guys. Bye. We're going to bed.